I got into voice acting because I was a weird child, and so my parents weren't sure what to do, I think, with my energy and my imagination. And I was really into acting, like for myself with my stuffed toys in my bedroom. And so they got me an agent, and my first audition was actually for a cartoon series called Swift and the Little Circus. It was the first and only female character I have ever played, other than incidentals. She was just this like wild, crazy girl who joined the circus. Her name was Lily Bell, and she was super lovely. And I got that role when I was 11, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been voice acting. Okay, I've been voice acting for over 15 years, and I love it. It's been like a really consistent part of my life, and super anchoring. And I feel like all the characters I've played have been with me at interesting points in my life with like parallels of things that were going on in my life. So it's actually been like a really significant part of who I am as a person, I think, because you're escaping into these worlds, but you're also playing and expressing and having an outlet because you're like in the booth screaming or laughing or like going hard in some battle, and there's just like no greater release. Voice work is something that I think people maybe take for granted when they get into it, because it's actually a really serious commitment. Like it's like anything else where you're committed to the studio, you're committed to the people booking your time, you're committed to the show and the producers and the fans, and so it's not actually flexible because it's like you need to put these shows out on time and you need to be available. It's flexible, I guess, in the way that you don't have to audition if you don't want to. I voiced male characters, and it actually created a lot of turmoil in my life. I was cast as young Goku when I was a young girl going through puberty as a woman, and it created kind of an identity crisis in that the kids at my school were brutal to me about it. I was teased a lot about it, really ridiculed things like Zoe has a penis, Zoe wants to be a boy, and when you're like going through puberty anyway, it's kind of just like this really intense time. And so to have these, I guess, like bullying attacks happening, I had this weird identity crisis about like my sexuality. I remember being like, do I want to be a boy? Like, what does this mean? Like, what are these limitations people are putting on me? Because I just saw Goku as this amazing character. Like, he was badass, he was fighting bad guys, he always fought for the underdog, he was like on adventures, he could fly. To me, he just like represented everything that was awesome, and I didn't see him as like a gendered character of like boys can do this and girls can't. And so when the series of Dragon Ball ended, then we went into GT, and there was actually a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to be associated with this, because I was super embarrassed. And the booth was like an escape. I like lived at the studio, but I feel like when I came back into the real world, I felt like wrong for it. So when that series wrapped up, I actually stopped voice acting and I went traveling. I moved and I lived in Ireland for quite a few years, and my parents would get calls like, when's Zoe back in Canada? We want her to audition. When's she coming back? But you have to be living here for a while, right? And I just was kind of taking a hiatus. And then I came back and started university, and I got a call from Brad at the studio, who was literally like a big brother to me because I spent so much time with him while I was growing up. And he was just like, when are you coming back for an audition? Like, what is happening? And so I came back and I auditioned, and I landed a spot on a series right away. And now it's like one of the best parts of my life, and I'm super proud of it. And now when people find out about the Goku thing, they celebrate it. So I feel like it was just like a interesting journey, and I'm super blessed to still be doing it. I think what keeps you going in voice work is that it's super fun, and it's like a magical place because you're literally going into that world. And I think I really respect actors, like real life actors, because they're also going into a character. But it's like that's the only time in my life I've been able to play like a giant robot, or this little bear character called Jungo, or Noboru with like this wild hair and these huge eyes. You know what I mean? Like, you're playing these things that don't really exist in real life, so it's such an escape, and there's a ton of freedom in that. I think there's lots of freedom in imagination, and to me, anime and doing voice work is like tapping into your animation and just like going overboard all of the time with like your wackiness, with your I guess releasing of the things that when we're normally interacting like hold us back, you know, like social rules and social cues. That doesn't exist in the anime world. They're just like in it all the time. I think when I was cast as Lilybell, it was easy because I was her. You know what I mean? I was an 11-year-old girl. Like, I loved the idea of being at the circus. They were going on adventures. She was really brave, and I think I was pretty, like, outgoing as, like, a young female. And then I remember starting to shift into the boy roles, and I played this one character, Sai Saishi, of this G Gundam show, and he was kind of, like, really hard and dark, and he went through a lot of turmoil. And you kind of just take a minute before you step in, and you're like, I'm going into this world now. And like the cloak goes on. And it's funny because in between takes, sometimes you're like, oh, how's your daughter? Oh, how's school going? Oh, like, what are you doing on the weekend? But then like the lines, you're just fully submersed in like you're on that planet or like you're in that space or you're going through that experience with the characters. So I feel like they like live inside you. Like the characters that you voice are a part of you. That's how you nail an audition is you like really are like channeling what you feel that character would be about and how they would live and express. So you just like let them come out and play. I think the biggest challenge was around not caring what other people think because we limit ourselves a lot as human beings based on what other people tell us we're allowed to be or allowed to do. So being a female and a woman and always voicing these male characters who are strong characters, you know what I mean? Like all of the characters I've played have been kind of like lead significant roles and often like winning battles and like fighting for the right thing. And so maybe that's influenced a little bit of how I live my life as a woman in the world, you know? And so I think the biggest challenge is knowing that if it's something that you're passionate about, you have every right to do it. And you know what I mean? As long as you're being good to other people and respecting other people. And it's something you can really, really celebrate. Like, what is a challenge in coming together with fans and people that are making something that they love and telling a cool story that lets people maybe go somewhere that doesn't exist for us in real life. I think that it's like a really beautiful thing. I'm super proud of it. My advice would be don't do impressions because I hear that a lot. People be like, oh, I really want to get into it. Listen to all these people I can sound like. And like, that's dope, but you need to be able to do your own unique thing. The thing that will land you a role is that you have a voice nobody else has and that you're playing with expressing something nobody else can express. And we're all unique and my vocal cords are mine alone, right? And so it's like stand with yourself in the mirror and be as weird as you can and imagine scenarios where you're going to then be really acting because I think a lot of times people think that anime actors maybe aren't like real actors, but it's like really trying and really demanding, and sometimes you come out of the booth and you're exhausted, like you've cried or you've battled or a friend character has died or you know what I mean. So you're acting just as intensely as anything else, so it's really about like connecting to genuine feelings to express them. As far as influences, it's funny actually because my parents are pretty intense hippies, and so we never had a TV growing up. So I never actually watched my own show. Like it aired on YTV, and I would go over sometimes to one of my friends' houses to watch it, but I never actually witnessed Goku being on air when other people were watching it. So for me, it existed in the booth, and it existed like in my mind. I remember I would dream about anime a lot when I was first getting into it. But it wasn't something that I actually got to like participate in the viewing of it. It was kind of after the fact and connecting with fans after and like obviously watching it on DVD and watching it back now. And so I feel like in terms of influences, it was imagination and playing. Like as a kid, I played a lot with like little toy animals and like Playmobil, and they would talk and have voices. I was a weird kid, so I didn't have a lot of friends, and so I like made up these voices and these characters in my head, and now I get paid to do them, which is really sweet. And I think it's inspiring. Like I remember going through that torture of being teased for being a girl voicing a boy, and then finding out like Bart Simpson is voice. Okay, I remember going through the torture of like being teased for being a girl voicing boy characters, and then finding out that Bart Simpson is voiced by a woman, and that so many of these like huge famous like cartoons that we watch as adults or kids have female actors playing boy characters, and really kind of feeling a bit of like relief about that, and being like, this is really cool, and if this is something that like can fund other things in my life, then those kind of actors were obviously a positive influence. They made me feel like I wasn't so strange. Um, as far as misconceptions, I think sometimes people think maybe that we have more influence on the shows. I mean, it's always hard because I really respect Japanese anime. I think Japanese dubs are always preferred. It's an original, right? There's like content there that you miss translating it to English. You just can't nail it in the same way. So I think the biggest challenge is knowing that you're taking something that was produced at this brilliant level and it has to come down a little bit. And so you're doing your absolute best. But I remember going to a comic, like a convention in LA, and we met the Japanese actors for some of our things, and they are just phenomenal. Like, and to try and, I guess, match that level is a challenge, and I think it's also very inspiring to push you to want to do better. And so I think the biggest misconception is we're doing the best we can, and I never want to take away from what the original is. I'm just wanting to produce, maybe contribute to a version that more people can access, and then if that bigs up the show and there's more fans who are excited about Buddy Fight or excited about a show, I feel like then that's contributing in a good way. I have a real soft spot in my heart for this character named Jungo. He was like this little yellow bear, dog, wolf, monkey thing. And that was when I found my boy voice. So I have a huge soft spot for him because I saw like his little face and I was just like, man, what does this guy sound like? And that's when I found my boy voice. So I owe Jungo a lot of love for producing that. And shortly after that, I found Goku, and he's like something that I go to in my life. I'll think about, I don't know, if I'm like having a hard time, and I think we all go through situations where it feels like life is weighing on us, and I'm like, literally Goku would get on his cloud and go and take something down and help somebody out and eat some good food, and he'd be okay. And it's like a mandate for how to get through stuff. And trust. I feel like Goku's a very trusting little human. I think for anybody, if you're playing something that you don't think you have within you, it's like we all do, because anybody can resonate with another human's experience. I think this is like one of our limitations in our world right now with like politics, is it's like you're this and I'm this and we're othering each other. And so if we could get beyond that in lots of ways that we're living in our world, I think it would influence things in a more connected space. So for me, it's like I think about the things that I love to do that I was never limited like by my parents or other people around me. There was no like gender division in my home. It was very much like, yeah, you want to play in the mud, climb trees, you do whatever you want, you wear whatever you want. And I'm super blessed that my parents were like that. So it was more about I just don't think it's about becoming a boy. I think it's about just like releasing your sense of adventure and experience. I don't think we should ever say that these types of people do this and these types of people do this. It's like we're all just doing the best we can with our current awareness. So if you can like have fun and adventure, and you can imagine being a little bit of a badass, then you can play that type of character. So my name is Zoe. I really like paint and artwork, and then sometimes this thing comes over me and it's just a little more raspy and I'm more excited and I'm like Kid Goku and I'm flying through the air and I'm taking everything over and helping people, and it's like Kamehameha! Hi, can I please get your extra large sandwich? Like, I want the biggest bread that you have. I want you to put all of the meat and every single veggie. Oh yeah, lots of pickles. I'll take some extra olives. And then I want like mustard. Do you have any like chipotle sauce? Okay, that'd be cool. And like avocado, but like, could you mash in some tomatoes into the avocado? Yeah, I really like those kind of special sauces. And then if you toast it, but like just lightly toasted, layer on the cheese. Oh yeah, you can just keep layering on the cheese. Oh, that's amazing. Hey, do you want to share this with me? We could go and like sit in the park and hang out and maybe look at the birds. Then we could take a ride in my cloud.